Thank you for joining. Thank you for being available for this last panel discussion, this roundtable. The title is going to be how to further strengthen municipalities in developing local democracy through youth participation in decision-making. So how can we continue supporting municipalities really to engage young people in the democratic processes, really support their involvement in youth participation? Again, it's not easy. If it was easy, I think we would not be here, for sure. But our guests for this last moment, and thank you again for your availability, they come from different backgrounds. They are all working and having different functions, some more connected with decision-making, others more supporting implementation, so as staff, as public officers of the municipalities, but they come with different perspectives. I'm also involved in the youth movement or the youth bodies, being consultative or not of the municipalities, but they can bring these perspectives from the people within the municipality. So thank you very much for your availability. And we'll start our table, and I'll launch the first question. So, we can start with that, with Karmen from that point. So based on your experience, what do you consider the main roles or functions that the municipality has in engaging young people in democratic decision-making and democratic decision-making processes?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me. It's such an honor. Well, a little bit of background from me. I'm recently elected the youth council member, and now officially a council member. I'm the youngest in our council. In Estonia, we can elect 18-year-olds, and the 16-year-olds could vote. So we had the local elections in this October, and I was elected as an official member. So I think it's a good opportunity for me to start working in the council to represent the ideas youth have, because I'm directly connected to the youth council and the youth, because we live in a really rural area when there's like a small amount of people and a small amount of young people. So I think in our municipality, the most is doing the work with the youth council and the schools and youth workers through this cooperation and cooperating with different non-formal activities as well. We have a really good connection and a network with different kind of workers in our municipality and in council, as well with the national board of youth councils. So I think we're kind of doing it different ways. It's a difficult and complex system we're using, but it's working. And I think you need to have all these little pieces working simultaneously to get the overall idea of youth participating through like surveys and different events and being there for young people and kind of training the municipality workers and the council members. So there's a lot of little things you need to add up to get the overall municipality youth engaging.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Karmen, sorry, for also showing this, that sometimes there is not a solution that fits all, but this diversity of approaches. Thank you. Laura, please.
Thank you.
I'll ask you to also to present yourself a little bit, the background. And
Okay, I'm Laura. I work for a local city in Belgium, Sint-Niklaas. We have around 80,000 inhabitants, and I think it's really the role of my job. I'm the coordinator of the Child and Youth Friendly City label. So in Belgium, you can earn a label when you work on the Child and Youth Friendly policy in your own local government. And I think for me, it's very important that we make the voice of children and youngsters very visible and very, we make the voice louder because their voices are also very important. And I think our council and the mayor and the aldermen, they think, okay, the children and youngsters are good, they are here. But I think it's our role to bring their voice really in their cabinet, how do you say it, in the city hall, that they know, okay, this is what they want, this is what they need, and we have to make policy also good for the children and youngsters of the city, and I think that's really our role as a civil servant to do that.
So bringing them inside our home, let's say it, okay? Thank you, Laura. Katalin.
Hey, my name is Kata, and I'm here on behalf of the municipality of Jászberény. It's a middle-sized town, and we have 28,000 citizens. I'm a youth coordinator. I work as a youth coordinator there. And to answer this question, let me go back to the past bit. 6 years ago, our mayor and body of local representatives decided to improve the youth policy of our town, and they voted for a so-called youth strategy. And as a part of this youth strategy, they set up a youth council. This youth council is a kind of council that Karen was talking about, citizen-elected body of young citizens, especially students and other young people from different NGOs and other organizations. But the whole process was done without the participation of young people. So it was an absolutely artificial body. So one of my colleagues, who was a civil servant and not a youth worker, wrote the operational regulations. So how many members this youth council would have, mayor and some vice mayors and some different committees, for example, financial committees. So it's very similar to the real body of local representative. And it was a complete failure. We asked the schools to send representatives, to send those students who are the most talented, so the 5% of the super engagers. But it wasn't there because, as it was an artificial body, they didn't want to join. They refused to work with us. Yes, they refused to work with us. And the answer to the question is the most important role of a municipality is not to create an artificial body for the youth, but to do it with the youth. So after this failure, our mayor and the local representative started a self-reflection. So the most important thing from this process that they did it with a good will and good intentions. So they aren't youth workers. So, for example, the mayor was a doctor, urologist, by the way, so he was very far from doing so many things about the youth work. After this self-reflection, it soon became clear that everything should be done with the help of the youth. So I think I really like, I don't know where Michelle is, but I really enjoyed her presentation because it represents the goodwill of politicians. So I think the question of helping the youth is a very, very important and crucially important, especially the rural areas where the population is a very important question. And we want to save the young people, so they go to the university, to big cities and maybe abroad, but it's not a problem, but they want them back to our local areas. So we need their knowledge, they need highly skilled professionals in our town. I would like to emphasize that these skills that we need from this toolkit is very important because most of the civil servants are not youth workers. So education, everything should start with the education.
Thank you, Katalin. Thank you. And just because, just a reaction here on Katalin, because I think she said something to make it real, to involve them in designing, but also to make it real, not to make this kind. And now I'm almost contradicting because Katalin was saying the importance of education, and there's many models of councils, of these simulations of the parliament, that they have a function on the educative dimension, supporting young people to understand how participation, but it's not enough. No? It has to have an impact, has to be something real. And it's interesting that they didn't want to participate if it was not real. Thank you, Katalin. Hrvoje, and from your perspective, and explain me a little bit what you do currently within the municipality.
Thank you, Bruno. You actually mentioned my name quite correctly, Hrvoje. Usually people are just broken tongues. So basically my name is Steve. So international name is Steve because Hrvoje is really Croatian name and only Croatians has that name, and it's similar to Italo in Italy or Sven in Sweden. So yeah, just call me Steve. I come from smaller municipality than my beautiful colleagues here. So it's just 8,000 inhabitants. It's called Lepoglava in the north part of Croatia. Lepoglava literally means beautiful head. And of course they sent me to represent the municipality. For 2 mandates, I was a deputy mayor, and now I'm the city council president, and I'm also a president of the Committee on Youth within the Assembly of European Regions, and I'm not a typical politician from the political party. My whole background actually is youth activism from age, I think, 16 or 17, and I was promoting this youth participation thing from my first days as an activist. So I switched sides and I try to solve some problems regarding the youth. You cannot do anything, but some things maybe you can actually change, because in politics 2 + 2 it's never 4, it's always 22. And that's why it's the catch 22, but never mind. What municipality can do, it can do a lot of things. It depends on what will they do and what they want to do. In the end, it focuses just on the individual goodwill or political will. And if you have the opportunity to have the youth council, like a law or a legislative framework, please do it, because you're obligated to have it. But if you don't have it, and you should have it, nothing will happen to you. And that's a bad thing. Why? Because the politicians don't think that young people are important. They don't vote. They're always against something. Always we have problems with them. So they are not strategically focused on the young people, which is the most stupid thing that they can do. And the paradox is that the politicians underestimate the power of young people, or the power of the people in general, and the people overestimate the power of politicians. If we can actually try to be in the middle, we'll see that the power really lies in the hands of the civil society, the whole civil society, not only the young people, but the context of this conference is youth participation. So what we can do, except the youth councils, we can always involve those 5% or 10% of motivated young individuals who would like to be involved. NGOs, individuals, local initiatives, local youth organizations, which are the ones who are the essence of the whole life of the young people in the municipality. Municipality is here usually for 4 years, as much as the mayor is, or maybe more, but the civil servants and the policy which is being implemented, done and conducted by the municipalities is the focus on the young people. If you will involve young people in the decision-making process, if they are going to be the ones who are going to lead those activities regarding the youth policy issues, then you really are working with young people. The bad thing is that when you are just having the youth strategies, youth councils with only members of your political party or with some nerds from the schools and so on, you actually don't have participation. You have typical tokenism, which actually is not benefiting anybody, and the young people then don't trust politics in general. Maybe you shouldn't trust politics or the politicians, but the policy, especially public policies, are the ones. This is the good side of politics. And if we are involving young people in the decision-making process on that level, and the municipality really thinks that the local young individuals, young people are the, not the future, but the present of the municipality, then we can actually see how the things are being conducted. So goodwill, and especially political will, is the essence that if you would like to change something, change it now. And you can easily see who is bullshitting you among the politicians. Those ones who are saying you and telling you that young people are the future, those are the bullshitters. Why? Because young people are present today. We are not getting any younger, tomorrow. So we should focus on the youth work today, actually yesterday, and not in 2023, 4, 5, or 7. So now and today. Thank you.
There was already some of the things tackled here regarding my next question, that is, within these roles that you're having in terms of promoting this youth participation within your tasks, within your municipalities, challenges that you're faced. I already see that, okay, young people were not coming, we created the body, but not coming, or the political will, okay? What kind of challenges were you facing in your daily work or when trying to implement this kind of participation? It's an open question, so anyone that would like to start?
Well, for us, the difficulty we're facing is the opposite of Katalin, because our youth council started with a group of young people who wanted to do something, and we put together the budget and the framework. We did it all ourselves. Like, we were sitting in the office with the deputy mayor at the time, and I was sitting there like in the night and writing it myself and learning about it. And there was like 20 of us doing that. And we faced the challenge of disbelief by the council members. When we went to represent our idea, our eyes were shining. We were so proud, we were so excited to do things, and that they were like, okay, we'll give you money, but just play whatever you want to do with it. Like, just get something and get out of here. But in those 2 years after that, when we were legislated, we've shown them we can do work. We've had great impacts on public transportation because that was a problem in our area, and we had a survey, we had a debate, and now there are more buses running and people are getting where they need to be. A good example is non-formal education. Teens care for that a lot. So we had our municipality worker come to a meeting with young people and talk about the non-formal activities and what needs to be done there. And she was listening. She understood and the fixes were made. But at the same time, there's workers who don't want to understand. And I think it comes to a person. Like, everything comes down to a person and their views. And it doesn't matter how great of a person they are, but if they tell you, like, we can't do it, we don't have the funding, and just like see the no's, not the yes, it's a problem. Because if teens are full of passion, we shouldn't tell them, like, no, we can't do that. If there's a will, there's a way. There's always a way, and that's something you need to tell them. If we can't do it like that right now, we can do it in the future. We have to find another way. When we didn't, they cut our funding last year a little bit, not a big amount, but still our budget was cut. We found a way. We started writing projects to still make our events and surveys and everything happen. So I think you need to think innovative and new, and you just, it comes down to a person. It's really hard to find right people in the municipality to work with youth. Because if you're a youth leader, you can't be doing the work for them. You just have to sit and listen and watch and let them learn by their mistakes. Because I've seen if the youth workers do the work for the youth, they don't learn. They don't have the stepping stone to go and do bigger things in the future. And that's what we're practicing in our youth council, is that we're doing everything by ourselves. If you need help, we contact the youth workers and the municipality workers and councilmen to talk to them, and we're working really closely with them, with the committees and everything we have to do. But we learn from our own mistakes, and we think it's a stepping stone for a lot of teens to get into big politics or to work in a municipality their own. And I'm really happy to see that Estonia overall, like this elections, there were so many young candidates. And the change in those people come when the young take the fate in their own hands and they start running for the offices and are applying for the jobs, because they have the changed attitude. And if they're working there, they're changing their environment, like amongst themselves, amongst their offices. So it's the solution for the issue we're facing, is to have young-minded people there. It doesn't matter the age. You just have to be like youth thinking and youth participating person overall. And if you're there and working, it solves the issue. But yeah, it comes down to people basically and their values and how they see life. It's sad because we can't change or teach values, but it needs time, and I think it comes with overall. But if we encourage young people to take it to their own hands, I think it will change pretty soon.
Thank you, Karmen. Challenges of doing this work.
Yes, I think it was very interesting what you said. In the city where I work, we had also a youth council, but our experience was that we only achieved or only had the 5% where we were talking about. And now we have an all other way of policy participation of youngsters. So we don't have the youth council anymore. Sorry, I'm not making myself popular. But we don't believe in it, because we think for every decision, we have to find the right youngsters, the right children. And I think that is our job, that not only the 10 smart and very engaged people get the chance to say everything about the whole policy of the city. And that's what we really believe in our city, that we just have to take every time back the decision, okay, which children and youngsters, who have we before us, what we can do, and that's why we now have the youth budget also in St. Nicholas. Some of the people were in our mini workshop, and that's, we really want to have diverse group of children and youngsters who can participate on the policy of our city. So now we have a yearly budget of 20,000 euros, and we experimented with drawn by lot. So we have a connection with 11 secondary schools in our city, and from each school there is one teacher, one mentor, and they can decide, okay, these are the 10 pupils I present to the youth budget, and the pupils, they do everything. So it's during the school time, and the pupils are like, they follow or they do Greek and Latin, but also electricity or hairdresser, and they are a very good mix of the society. And when they get a golden ticket, that is our methodic, so they get a golden, you are the chosen one, you can decide. They are like, oh, why me? I don't know why you chose me. And first of all, they're very nervous because they think I'm not the good one. But after the traject, they are really, they're really proud of what they could decide and what they talked about. And I think that is really democracy. So we have to always check that everybody can say something about our policy, and not only the 10% of pupils. And what is also very important in a city work in the city is that not only the departure of youth, but also the departure environment, departure well-being can ask the children and youngsters in their policy domain what has to change. And I think this is for me a really uitdaging, challenge to do that, and to also have the connection with the right people on the right chair. And that's what she also said. It's very important who you have in that position, and if he or she is willing to ask the children and youngsters themselves. So that's a very big thing I'm working with.
Thank you, Laura. And I think this challenge of the transversally, when we're talking about youth, we're talking about transportation, as Karmen was saying. We're talking about sustainability and how to be able to not knock, but be inside of the small houses. In Portugal, we say the municipality is a big house with a lot of small houses like that, and each one wants to work on its own house. So it's how to make it really transversal, but this outreach of these different young people, and maybe it's this balance between different methods, youth councils, collecting the young people from different target groups, different realities, in this diversity of approaches, of methodologies, but big challenges here. Hrvoje or Katalin, some of the challenge for you in this work?
From the point of view of my municipality, the main obstacle is that the local representatives don't understand the importance of a job of a youth coordinator and as well as youth workers. As I've already mentioned, that I'm a youth coordinator, but it's not the only task I do. We have a youth club. We opened it in June, and I also coordinate this club with all the programs there. So it's not only for the youth. Actually, it's a multifunctional place, a so-called community space. So we have job seekers clubs and several mentoring programs, not for the youth but the adults too. So it's another job. It's quite complicated. And apart from these two things, I also coordinate some human resources projects from the European Social Fund. And I think it's too many things that one person can do. So it's very important. It would be very important that the local representative understand what a youth worker should do. So it's a crucially important job in a town hall or in a municipality. And another obstacles, another difficult things is the lack of cooperation with schools. So wouldn't imagine organizing something in school time. So it's unimaginable in our town because teachers said that I wouldn't like to send students because they have to prepare for the entrance exam or any other exams, so there are important lessons. So they don't understand the importance of non-formal education. And I think nowadays it's crucially important, and the youth work can't be imagined without non-formal education.
Thank you, Catalina. All this, sometimes in some countries, it's quite easy to approach and to work within the schools and not to use more time of young people, because that's giving them some time. In others, would be quite difficult to work within the school spaces. So this, I think, is also this international dimension brings this diversity of seeing what is work, what makes sense within the different realities. Hrvoje, from your perspective, here are some challenges.
Well, there was, and there will be lots of challenges because the young people are always having some new trends we need to follow, and I'm not using that much Instagram, for instance. They are all on Instagram. Facebook is getting old, I hear. So it's very difficult to find appropriate some steps and things to do. But the most challenging part was how to convince them that not everything in politics is bad and not all the politicians are bad, because they lack the confidence in the system. They don't trust that somebody from the system is going to help them, and when you are trying to involve them in the decision-making process, they're always being a little bit scared and afraid that, okay, if I'm going to be honest and say what I really need, is the mayor is going to listen to me, or he or she is just going to send me to some other office number 5 on the top floor, and then to an office number 7 on the 3rd floor, and so on, to solve the problems that young people are facing. So having this problem in confidence and trust in system was maybe the best and the biggest challenge that we had. But on the other hand, we open youth center, open a youth club, gave lots of money for the initiatives from the youth NGOs, paid transportation, paid the books for schools, give scholarships, give some funds for new babies and so on. And I think that we killed activism with that, because we were being really, really friendly towards young people, and they actually lost that momentum in which young people are always fighting against the system, because system gave them everything. So how can we get back on the track that we need sincere and honest partners, the youngsters, who are going to say, hey, that's wrong, that's bad. So we are not trying to fight and getting back on that specific track. And in that specific sense, I call this pistachio effect. You know, most of you like pistachio, right? And you are being really, really lazy like myself, and I'm opening the first and the second, the ones that can easily be open, and I'm eating those ones. And I'm putting aside the ones that I cannot open. Those ones that cannot be open are the youngsters we need to work on now, today. Because the motivated and the optimistic young individuals and youngsters are the ones who are always going to be here. But we need to focus on those that cannot be opened that easily. And the biggest fruit is there. Because they were never involved, they have lots of things to say, and nobody's including them. And the ultimate truth is that nothing for young people without young people actually is for young people. And only when we'll involve them in the decision-making process on all levels, because youth participation is not only about the political participation. Yes, it's important, but the cultural participation, sport, civil society, education, social services, all of those things have young people involved. In the end, the young people are going to fill those schools with kids, kindergartens, they are going to build houses and flats and so on. So they are the ones who really need to be sincerely and honestly involved in planning the future of the local community. If not, they are going to, I don't know, Germany, like they're doing in Croatia, for instance. So if we are not involving them and we're not focusing on them, especially the pistachio ones, we are actually losing our local communities.
Thank you. The club of fans. Huh? I know. A lot of drinks in the night. It works. But many times it's something, again, it depends on context to context. Sometimes within the country and municipalities, they have totally different capacity in terms of human resources, recognition of the work, the recognition of the youth work, recognition of this kind of work. But if you were going to choose some of your achievements, some of the, how you got or this recognition, or be able to reach the closed pistachios, or be able to create a local youth council that has a budget and is recognized, what could you consider as some of your achievements, and how did you manage to get this recognition or this achievement? How you convince others somehow?
I want to kind of get back to the 5 and the 10% of the super engaged youth. I think you can't decide like we have to focus on the other 80%, because if you don't engage the super engaged people, they're not going to be engaged anymore. And I think you should see, you could use them. Like, for example, our youth council has the super engagers, and they are super engaged, but I think that is one of our biggest achievements as well, is that we're networking with people that aren't, because it's youth to youth. They talk to the youth that aren't engaged all the time. They go to school to them. They have activities or hobbies together. And I think the talking and listening is the most important thing to do for the super engaged people, because they can be the representative of the ideas overall. And that's something we're using in our daily work. If I, for example, go to just a concert in my free time and I see some young people from my area, I'm still talking to them and asking what's going on, how you're doing, what are the problems, and what are you enjoying. The talking and the listening is the most important part in that. And if you realize that, and you can use super engaged people to do that, because they will deliver the ideas to you. Like, you can get comfortable. The super engaged teens will do the work for you, but at the same time it's effective. In Estonia we're practicing a lot the youth to youth, not for youth, not with youth anymore. Like, the next step further, we're doing youth to youth events or youth to adults events. For example, in our municipality, our youth council actually had a training for the municipality workers. It was a team bonding event. We put it together and it worked. I think it's important to take the next step and kind of use the youth to youth policy, and because they know what their peers want, they can listen to them a little bit more effectively, I would say, because the teens, even if you talk to the not as engaged people as a worker, as a youth worker, they may not trust you. But it's at the same time, we have a really good example from our youth center. If the youth worker just kind of sits in her chair behind her computer and just listens what the teens are talking, they have so many wonderful ideas. And that, yeah, I just would suggest everyone to use the super engaged people to get to the not engaged people, because they kind of know how to open up the other young people, because they are young. So the young people know the best what they want and what they should have. And yes, I kind of agree the super engaged people shouldn't decide everything, but you should teach them how to network and how to listen and how to use their powers and tools to work with the not engaged people. So I think that's something that's working in our municipality, because in reality, the 80%, they're not gonna run for a position in the youth council. And it's okay, you have to understand and see it's okay, it's fine. They don't have to, but you have to know how to engage them, even though, and I think the super engaged people are the people to do it. But a little bit more achievements, I think in Estonia overall, like the youth and talking and just especially listening, like the World Cafes is a huge hit in Estonia. It started a few years ago. And I know Heikki and Gerto are smiling back there, because in my first World Cafe, Heikki was there. So it's a good example that we usually invite the decision-making people, like the advisors and the council members or the municipality workers, just to come and listen. They don't even get to talk much. We have a person that just kind of goes with the flow and talks with the youth and represents ideas and puts it all together, but the municipality workers are there to listen. If they're surrounded by their peers and the same age people, they are more likely to open up. And that's something that's really working, and we have really great ideas coming from teens. And it's something that you can connect to younger people, and I think that's the next step you should take as well, is to talk to the young people, even younger than 18, even younger than 14. In Pärnu, we had a good example when the first graders were asked to draw a problem in their city. They had so much crosswalks made more because the first graders pointed out the problems in the city. And I think there are so many different ways how to engage even younger people. We should use them. And I think that's something where Estonia is taking it. We're finding and exploring the different ways how to engage all age groups. And I'm really glad to see in our municipality, the youth council work is really important to older people as well. Like, I'm talking grandparents. They're super interested what we're doing, following, and they're even, if we're doing a survey, public survey for, it's just like directed to youth, but everybody could answer, we have a lot of grandparents answering them. And I think it's great. It shows like they're usually not as engaged as the super engaged young people. They're like back home, they're doing their own thing. But still, they are engaging. You just need to have to find the ways. And I'm proud that we have found some.
Thank you, Karmen.
She convinced me.
She convinced you. She convinced you. Or maybe we'll recreate again the local youth council.
I think we have to think about it again. But yeah, thank you for your inspiration.
I think again, it was maybe sometimes it's the combination of different methods, different approaches.
I think for us, it was a really eye-opener that a participation moment is not only the mayor who is speaking to the public. And that was like that for a lot of years. And we did with our team a whole different kind of participation moment. And he was there. And it were all round tables with children, youngsters, and policymakers, but also the mayor, aldermen. And it was a little bit like you were saying, they had to be there because we were talking about mobility, environment. And the colleagues who worked on that team, they never talked about their policy domain with some children and youngsters. And they had very good insights, and they went back to their office with, all right, they think about that thing, maybe we have to do it like this. And I think that is very good to bring them together, to bring them in contact, in touch with each other, that also the people we don't think about can use the voice and make some policy really with the youngsters, yes.
I'll answer the question. It is very difficult to mention something that I'm proud of, because there are a lot that we can proud of in our town, of course. Let me mention one of the most important thing. After the failure of this artificially made youth council, I made a proposal to set up another committee. It was a so-called youth committee, which is a cross-sectoral organizations with different professionals. So I think it's very important because it contains sociologists, politicians, other stakeholders, and teachers, many teachers. And this organization can work together very effectively, because we see the problems of the youth from very different angles, and we can react to their problems very successfully. And it's kind of mentoring of the youth councils. So which competencies we have to teach students and young people so that they can participate in the decision-making process. So it isn't something that comes easily. So it's very difficult to speak in front of so many people like we do, and it's difficult for us, and it's a great challenge for young people. So we launched a communication programs, so how to improve their communication skills, and other competencies that are necessary in decision making. So I have already mentioned that education is so important because I think education should be a first step when we want to make young people to take part in the decision making processes. And the other thing that I'm very proud of is the opening of this youth club. And we have several programs, and all the programs were put together with the young people. So not the civil servants or the teachers or other members of the youth committee, but the young people. So there are very interesting YouTube programs and media programs, radio programs, something like you were talking about, and Xbox programs. So something wouldn't be important for us. I wouldn't choose in this kind of programs, but with the help of these projects, we can reach those 80% or 90% who are the super engagers. Okay, thank you.
Achievements. Well, I'll just use one example, the policy thing. You can do ad hoc activities whenever you want. You can easily just buy things for young people, open stuff, buildings, and so on. But when you are doing the youth policy thing or public policy in general, you can solve the problems for the future years to come. So we had in 2013 a system of scholarships which was a bit weird because apparently nobody from the municipality understood that there was some process calling Bologna process was already ongoing in Europe, and we were giving scholarships to non-existing professions and so on. And we invited young people, not only the youth council members, not only the student union, but anybody who is in this form of a student life now. And we asked them, okay, please, could you help us change the policy regarding the scholarships, because obviously we don't know what is going on with this Bologna thing. And they said, okay. And it was a beautiful example on when you give the power of decision to the young people. They know what they want. They know how to do it. They completely change the approach towards scholarships. And 99% of the public policy regarding the education policy in the sense of scholarship was done by young people. That 1% was the public servants who just translated their ideas to this legal framework, which needs to be fixed and need to go on. And from 2013, we have the best example of scholarships in Croatia. For several times, we were a good example of good practices among other municipalities. And this is great accomplishment when you can really prove that when you give the power to young people, that something good can happen. And that public policy is ongoing. Those kids who actually started this change in the policy already finish uni and work and have families and so on, but the newcomers, the freshmen and so on, are having the same good model of getting scholarships within our municipality. And seeing that it can be done, obviously we need to focus on policy changes and include young people in the decision-making process, because they know how to change things, they know how to do it, they are smart, and we just need to believe that they are really the good human capital of every local community. So that's what it's a good accomplishment from our side.
Thank you, Hrvoje. Another question here, and we're getting closer here to the part of the questions. Sometimes I really believe that change comes from within, in terms of having this, having somebody like Michel that was giving the example in the morning in French that, okay, a recent politician, nobody is doing anything for youth, so I start to experiment, try, and create something, or a municipality staff worker, or a member of a local youth council that maybe was not even existing before, but then started and get the recognition. So really change comes from within, in my perspective. But sometimes we are quite alone. So my question is, if you needed some external support, and you could choose now you could choose now. There's all the political commitment to support and to get this external support if you need. What kind of external support did you need, or do you think that would support to develop better your work within youth participation in decision making?
Well, probably I think it's the training of municipality workers, because I think sometimes it's good that the youth don't have so much funding, because they have to be creative and find ways, and it just develops them skills they will need in life, being goal orientated and so on. But I think yeah, there would be a lot of things we would want, but the municipality worker training is, I think, one of them. It's hard to change values, but we should try at least to give them the idea how to participate with youth and how to engage them. And it lacks. I can see in Estonia, it's just like the youth workers do it, and in the youth field, the people know how to engage youth, and they are in the field, they know about the subject. But overall, municipality workers in communications or transportation or overall mobility, or just like the council members, they aren't in the work every day. They just come together when there's decision-making time, but they should be aware of this all times, and I think they should need training overall, how to engage young people and how to take their ideas into consideration, and how, if you, like, I think the most important part from the training would be if you hear an idea, how to actually make it happen. Because right now they're listening and listening, but nothing happens, and we need to take the step further. And I think the training, yeah, that's probably the thing we need.
Thank you, Karmen. Capacity building. In your case, Laura?
Yeah, I followed European training lobbying for youth some year ago, before Corona, and it was very interesting, because you need some skills to, when you hear an idea, or when you know what change is needed, to convince your policymakers to do that. And I think that is really, you need it as a local civil servant, because otherwise you do some nice participation moments and everybody can join, but yeah, what's happening next? And I think those next steps is really important, and really make your city better for the children and youngsters. And I think there is more time. You need more time to think about the strategy, how you're gonna do it, and how you're gonna motivate your idea. So I agree with what she said. Yes.
Training and information are the keys of success. I think I absolutely agree with Karen. The training of municipality workers, the civil servants, but the teachers should also be involved in the process, and other stakeholders. So without the support of teachers, we cannot be succeeded in the process. We should work in a very close cooperation with them. And another thing is to provide my colleagues and the other stakeholders with adequate information and how non-formal education and how this training was working in our local life.
Thank you, Kata.
Well, definitely the trainings are the ones who are the first stop in any job. So obviously the public servants should also be educated how to communicate and how to work with young people, and why the general public participation, civic participation, including youth participation, is important for the normal development of local communities. We have a saying in Croatia that nobody is a prophet in his own village. So no matter how good ideas you have, if somebody will come with the same idea from the next village, it's going to be wow. So obviously the good examples from different municipalities, not only Croatian ones, but also from the European level, are going to be quite beneficial both for the decision makers, the young people, and the public servants, civil servants working in the municipality. Usually when you see that most of the people are doing the same things as you, so you are not that stupid, that everybody basically is, I wouldn't say stupid, but motivated to change the world, which sometimes can be stupid, but still, let's keep focusing on changing the world, then it's much easier to motivate yourself, because you see, somebody from, I don't know, Belgium, Czech Republic, Slovenia is doing the same thing, changing the world, so I'm not alone on this weird path of youth participation and so on. So accept the trainings and good examples from different municipalities. I think that all can benefit from that same motivation, that if you need to change if you need change, you need to start changing. And saying that, I really do believe that we can make a certain change if we're going to use not only the toolkit, right, but also our connections, our knowledge, our skills, and our friendship and network that actually we are building up for the last couple of years. So let's keep focusing on that.
Thank you, Hrvoje.
Stop it.
So the next question I have is not for this side, it's for that side. And so the next question is that I'll ask you within the groups, is that question that is over there. In your perspective, how to further strengthen municipalities in developing youth participation or developing local democracy through youth participation in decision making. And you can relate to your own experience, or you can also highlight something that in your perspective was shared here by our speakers, to share what you think should be done and can be done within the municipalities for us really to have young people being involved in local governance with impact. We'll have for this just 10 minutes for you to share a little bit the highlights, but I think it's also important that you have a moment to discuss among yourselves. The toolkit is one of the possibilities of the tools among many, definitely. Maybe we need to develop a lot more things from the training, from the exchange of practices, from so many different things. But also, please, within your tables, try to think a little bit how can we continue supporting municipalities really to strengthen democratic participation. Big thank you to all the guests, Hrvoje, Katalin, and Laura, Karmen. Thank you very much for being available.